Britain's Prince Andrew is embroiled in scandal once again.
A developing headline involving Prince Andrew
facing a new lawsuit for alleged sexual abuse.
Virginia Giuffre, one of Jeffrey Epstein's accusers, has filed a lawsuit against the 61-year-old prince, claiming that he sexually abused her on multiple occasions when she was a teenager.
Making an allegation in the court of public opinion is one thing. Actually filing a lawsuit is another. There's no doubt that this is an escalation for both Virginia Giuffre and for Prince Andrew.
The suit, which was filed in federal court in New York, outlines 3 incidents in which the prince allegedly sexually assaulted Giuffre, 2 of those occurring on the properties of deceased sex offender Epstein, and once in the London home of Epstein's longtime associate, Ghislaine Maxwell.
This brings everything back to the fore for Prince Andrew, who has tried to live, I think, beneath the fray of late.
The lawsuit saying 20 years ago, Prince Andrew's wealth, power, position, and connections enabled him to abuse a frightened, vulnerable child with no one there to protect her. It is long past the time for him to be held to account. The allegations against the prince are perhaps one of the greatest threats to the image of the British royal family.
The royals live and die by the court of public opinion, and Andrew has lost that.
Just today, a headline in the British paper, The Times, citing a source close to Prince Charles. In a statement to ABC News through her lawyers, Giuffre writing, "I know that this action will subject me to further attacks by Prince Andrew and his surrogates, but I knew that if I did not pursue this action, I would be letting victims everywhere down."
The hope is that by requiring Prince Andrew to appear in court to answer for these charges, she'll take a step towards making sure that what happened to her doesn't happen to other young girls in the future.
Giuffre, now a 38-year-old mother living in Australia, first accused the prince of sexual abuse in public court filings in December of 2014 in a case brought by alleged Epstein victims against the U.S. Department of Justice. They were suing because of Epstein's lenient deal with federal prosecutors in 2008. In a 2019 interview with the BBC's Panorama, Giuffre detailed her allegations against the prince.
Ghislaine tells me that I have to do for Andrew what I do for Jeffrey. And that made me sick. I just didn't expect it from royalty.
Prince Andrew has denied all of Giuffre's allegations. In a rare television interview with the BBC that same year, he maintained that he has no recollection of her and that he never had sex with her.
I can absolutely categorically tell you it never happened.
Giuffre says this picture of the 2 of them together backs up her account.
He knows what happened. I know what happened. And there's only one of us telling the truth, and I know that's me.
Nobody can prove whether or not that photograph has been doctored, but I don't recollect that photograph ever being taken.
For nearly a decade, the prince has been under scrutiny for his association with Epstein, a multimillionaire financier and the subject of state and federal investigations that started in the mid-2000s for allegedly recruiting underage girls for illicit massages and sex. But the prince has said he never witnessed any of the criminal conduct that Epstein was convicted of or accused of.
We don't really know what kind of a personal relationship they enjoyed, but certainly Prince Andrew was a frequent visitor to Jeffrey Epstein's homes, not only in Manhattan, but also on his private Caribbean island. And we know that the 2 had traveled together and traveled in similar circles, thanks mainly to Ghislaine Maxwell, who was Jeffrey Epstein's partner for a long time.
Giuffre, who alleges that she was also a victim of sex trafficking and abuse by Jeffrey Epstein, says that's how she came to know Prince Andrew. In the lawsuit, she says that she was compelled by express or implied threats by Epstein, Maxwell, and/or Prince Andrew to engage in sexual acts with Prince Andrew and feared death or physical injury and other repercussions for disobeying. David Boyes is one of the attorneys representing Giuffre.
We reached out to Prince Andrew and his lawyers several times over the last 5 years to try to resolve this issue without the necessity of litigation. They have just consistently stonewalled.
Giuffre is now seeking unspecified compensatory and punitive damages, arguing that the prince intentionally caused her emotional distress. ABC News reached out to Prince Andrew for comment on this lawsuit, but a UK-based spokesperson said there would be none.
As the plaintiff, she still has the burden to prove that it happened. And even if you believe that Prince Andrew and Virginia Giuffre knew each other, she still has to prove that these acts occurred.
She'll be able to prove her case in part through her own testimony, and in part through photographic evidence, in part through the testimony of other individuals.
How big a hit reputationally is this to the Crown?
These allegations against Prince Andrew are the worst that have ever happened to a member of the royal family in my lifetime.
The backlash from that BBC interview so severe that he was forced to give up his royal duties and reportedly moved his offices out of Buckingham Palace.
There is a real understanding that Prince Andrew may never return to public royal life.
Prince Charles now really is head of the family. He wants the monarchy to survive. There is no way back for Prince Andrew. There can be no way back.
Next year is the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. What does this mean in the run-up to that celebration?
There's a dark cloud over it. This is the last thing that the Queen wants to deal with her much beloved son, because he is her son. But at the same time with the monarchy, we've all watched The Crown. The Crown comes first.
Virginia Giuffre's lawsuit comes almost 2 years to the day that Epstein died by suicide in a New York City jail while awaiting trial on conspiracy and child sex trafficking charges. Prosecutors from the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York had alleged that from about 2002 to 2005, Epstein sexually exploited and abused dozens of minor girls at his homes in Manhattan, New York, and Palm Beach, Florida, among other locations, using cash payments to recruit a vast network of underage victims, some of whom were as young as 14 years old. Michelle Licata says she was just 16 years old when she was recruited by another high school girl to give Epstein a massage.
He kept saying, God, you're just so beautiful and sexy and gorgeous, and it was making me feel really uncomfortable.
Licata told investigators in a police interview at the time that Epstein sexually assaulted her.
Then he wanted me to rub his back, and then he kept asking me to go lower and lower. He was kind of talking to me, trying to get to know me about my sex life.
Because of Epstein's death, many of his alleged victims never saw justice served. Epstein's one-time girlfriend and associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, is now also behind bars, currently awaiting trial on charges that she aided Epstein's alleged abuse of 4 underage girls.
She has pleaded not guilty and denied it all throughout.
She's facing the possibility of decades behind bars if convicted.
Maxwell denies Giuffre's claims that she recruited her for sexual activities or instructed her to have sex with Prince Andrew or other men. She has not been charged in connection with Giuffre's allegations. As for Prince Andrew, he initially said he would aid law enforcement with their Epstein investigation.
Despite his public assertions that he's willing to help investigators in the United States unravel Jeffrey Epstein's conduct, it does not appear that Prince Andrew has actually followed through. The U.S. attorney at the time, Jeffrey Berman, stood in front of Jeffrey Epstein's then mansion and declared that he wanted to talk to Prince Andrew and had reached out to the British government to try and make that happen.
Prince Andrew has provided zero cooperation.
Prince Andrew's lawyers, Blackford's LLP, however, denied this, issuing a statement in June 2020 saying the prince had offered his assistance as a witness to the DOJ several times. Today, the head of London's Metropolitan Police was asked about the new lawsuit against Prince Andrew on LBC, a British radio station.
Is he above the law, the Duke of York?
No one is above the law.
Boyes says that he hopes at the very least the lawsuit leads to Prince Andrew finally answering questions under oath.
She wants to set an example here. People, no matter how rich or powerful, no matter who their family is or what their connections are, can't avoid being called to account in a court of law for allegations of sexual abuse.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.